information, visit the Jeffrey Modell Foundation at info4pi.org.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
It's not coming. It's already here. You know, it's like the oncoming train when you don't realize how close it actually is. Is that what's going on with Nick Saban up in Capitol Hill? And we revisit that today here in the Fast Lane because there are actually some interesting local angles, including one that ties into what I think is a nice under-the-radar move to the southwest of us here at our Virginia Talk Radio Network headquarters, and something we will surely discuss in our next chat with whomever we chat with from TechSideline.com Monday in the Fast Lane. And yes, I butchered that grammatically, but just please, I ask for a little bit of forgiveness. But Nick Saban had this to say. I know we played it yesterday, but there's a different tone to this as it relates to college sports and predicting it or missing and omitting the fact that it's already here.
Let me give you the history. My first year we had collective at Alabama, 2.7 million. Next year, 7 million. Next year, 10 million. I retired. Next year, 17 million. Next year, 24 million. Now you have schools that have close to $40 million rosters. So if we continue to do that, we're going to lose Olympic sports. We're going to lose non-revenue sports. We're going to lose scholarships. And basically what's going to happen is you're going to have football and basketball succeed, and we'll have club sports for everything else.
Aren't we already there in a lot of cases? Like, one could argue, and you can go to jerryratcliffe.com for his reporting. It's a week or two old, but it's still very accurate and very thorough on what happened with Lars Tiffany at Virginia, where the job description changes and all of a sudden you're asked to do more in terms of helping raise funds for the program. Which, again, doesn't that kind of operate like the club sports model? Or in a place like Virginia Tech, where football is clearly getting the bulk of the financial resources. Basketball, they are spending, but not at the same level that top programs in the ACC are. And it's no shock that most people's projection of the top four in the ACC, top five in basketball this year is, in some order, Duke, Louisville, Virginia, Miami, and North Carolina. I'll break it down real simply for you. They're the ones that are allocating more
dollar bills, y'all,
to basketball than other programs. And therefore, they are in a stronger position. Virginia Tech is not in that spot. Heck, most of the ACC is not. And if you think this is a Virginia Tech smaller school problem, I'll back off on that one. Because Virginia, we mentioned it a moment ago. Brian O'Connor, a lot of people, again, thought that, and Jerry Ratcliffe was one who reported this, that he kind of got tired of having to always ask for additional resources for Virginia baseball. Now, to their credit, seems like they've done a really good job of assisting Amherst County native Chris Pollard with the resources for baseball. But you're asked to do more as a coach. Maybe not even directly fundraising, although that's part of it. Yes, contributing, but being willing to make the phone calls, take the steps that are necessary. Oddly enough, I think James Franklin himself is well equipped to do that at Virginia Tech, but he's also gotten a very robust amount of financial support, staff, resources, people that can assist with that role. And Virginia Tech, with the start of Hokie Ventures yesterday or Tuesday, whenever it was voted in, and their steps on the Board of Visitors meeting, even with the departure of Rector to the Board of Visitors, John Rakovich, it looks like they're going in the right direction with that. But it has not come without their expenses. You could very well argue that when they lost their baseball coach, I forget his name, the one that departed for Oklahoma before John Sheff took over. A lot of that was financially related. And that was before Oklahoma had made the move into the SEC, but they were on the verge of doing that. I'm sure they knew athletically as a department where they were resource-wise and where they might end up winding up when that was starting to bubble to the surface, even if it wasn't, put out there until 2021. But they're not the only ones. Like, here's one of the most telling things to just keep in mind. Jeff Goodman, Field of 68 podcast host, very well informed on basketball, had this to say about Marcus Burton departing Notre Dame for Indiana.
Well, I think some people understand too. I mean, I'm not going to ask you to say what you made, but certainly there's certain programs that have real money right now for NIL, and certain ones that don't. And Notre Dame right now doesn't have the same level of resources financially as a place like Indiana, as a place like Louisville, as Kentucky. Some of those, and I feel bad for Micah that he doesn't have that.
Let that sink in for a moment. Jeff Goodman talking with Marcus Burton, who was at Notre Dame and then departed in the offseason, transferring to Indiana. And you can talk culture. I'm sure there's positives to that in Indiana. But they're a Big Ten school. We've seen what they've invested in football. We've seen what those schools in the Big Ten and the SEC are investing in football, basketball, and other sports. They're in a different financial stratosphere. Virginia Tech's already experienced that. Kenny Brooks went to Kentucky. Even though most programs in women's basketball are losing money financially, and Kentucky's in that camp, he'd have more resources. Kentucky's in the SEC. They have money at their disposal. Think of that for a second, though. Jeff Goodman is talking about Notre Dame. Arguably one of the 3 to 4 biggest spenders in college football outside of the Power 2 conferences. So we're not counting USC, Ohio State, Michigan, and others in the Big Ten. We're not counting LSU, Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Texas, schools from the SEC. Schools outside of that. There's a cluster of big spenders. And The Athletic had an article about the biggest spenders of all in terms of the NIL. And there are really 3 that came to mind outside of that conference. Notre Dame was one of them. They're spending a lot in football. A lot of people think their roster is close to $40 million. Pete Sampson of The Athletic, who is a Notre Dame reporter and very well resourced, has a fantastic piece up this week that's worth checking out. But he's talking about that. Think about that for a second. Notre Dame, they have their own television network for football, and they are balling on a budget. Miami, now they're spending in a lot of sports, but they're one of the others. And then Texas Tech, who literally found the oil field. Cody Campbell, $400 million or whatever he's worth, whatever he's willing to spend. He's got a lot allocated. They're fine. You heard it last night, even though they lost, but Texas Tech's Najee Kennedy back once again in the College Softball World Series Championship. Game 2 tonight, VTRN Sports app. And then after that, we'll join the Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes in progress on your home for championship play-by-play, 93.3 FM in the VTRN Sports app. Think about that for a second. Notre Dame, they're balling on a budget. They're not even going all in on sports like basketball. Women's basketball lost one of their players. I think it was to LSU last offseason. They lost, obviously, Marcus Burton to Indiana. Notre Dame, pun intended here, one of the gold standards in college football, or the Golden Domers. They're balling on a budget. So we have gotten to that point where if Notre Dame is balling on a budget, and we've got the examples we outlined of Virginia and what they've looked for in their non-big sports programs, non-football and men's basketball, and Virginia Tech, we outlined those as well. They can afford to spend on certain things, but they have to be more judicial about that. We're in a spot already. Nick Saban mentioned it, and maybe for the SEC, and I know Arkansas lost, and then they had an underwriter, an endower, who decided to reverse that, but they were going to shutter their men's tennis program, and I think their women's tennis as well. But they were going to shutter.
And they have Walmart and Tyson Foods as like boosters.
I mean,
the richest owner in all of sports, which is the Walton family, who owns the Denver Broncos, and Tyson Foods, who has little logos on their football field. And I mean, if anyone has kids, probably has a bag of their chicken nuggets in their freezer right now.
Guilty.
Including me, who may have the Tyson Dino Nuggies in his freezer.
You like the Dino Nuggies too?
Why not? I mean, I'm American, okay?
If you're going to eat nuggets, you might as well go with the fun ones, right, Trey?
Exactly, right?
Yes. So that's where you are. Those programs are. Nick Saban, look, God bless him, I love him, but the idea of everyone's operating like a club sport, the business model is already shifting. Now, it may change a little bit when you get to a Super League, but Virginia, again, I think it's smart. Virginia Tech should be pumping the most resources into football. They're going to spend some on basketball, men's and women's, but they have to be judicial financially compared to other programs. They can't treat like women's basketball at Kentucky as a loss leader or as just a loss because they have an ulterior motive and ulterior sources of income. They're in a different stratosphere. I give them credit. I think it's why you should be a little bit softer on, Megan Duffy or John Sheff, as disappointing as the ends to their season were, not winning a game in postseason play. Women lost to Oregon in the first round of the women's basketball tournament, and then the men lost both games this past weekend out in California to Cal Poly and UCLA, as you heard on the VTRN Sports app, your home for the Hokies. But this is where we are, and Virginia's in that spot, and Virginia's got underwriters for women's basketball, Alexis Ohanahan. They've got underwriters, some that have stepped up for baseball. Football has received gifts at Virginia. They've come up with creative ways. More on that in the Fast 5 at 5-ish in just a moment. But everybody's in this spot unless you're in the finite grouping of schools. I mean, really, if you want to talk about programs out there that can afford to play an arms race with never ending, I mean, am I naive, Trey? They're really the only ones I think that at some point it's not going to catch up to are probably your Texas schools, because newsflash, you, I, and everyone else, even if we get the most fuel-efficient car at Sheeler Motor Mile, shop 24/7 at Sheeler.com, you still have to fill up with gas, and inevitably that money circulates back there into their program.
And I also was going to mention how, I'm not here to get political, but there's a certain thing going on in the other side of the world that's causing prices to go up and the price of oil to go up, and that just means more money for those people. So like Cody Campbell ain't having he's not having a bad month, to say the least. But I will say this, at some schools like the Arkansas, the Notre Dames, it's not that they don't have the resources, because they do. It's the allocation of resources. Like Notre Dame cares about, what do they care about really?
Football,
and that's it. They need to have a really good football product, because if they don't, then it hurts their NBC deal. They really don't care about the rest. Like, they can be good at basketball. They can't, they probably invest a little bit more. I mean, a little bit more in women's basketball. But you think about this, like Olivia Miles, who went, number 2 overall in the WNBA draft, was at Notre Dame. And because they only could afford either her or Hannah Hidalgo, who probably was the best player in the ACC, is the best player in the ACC. She's still in college. Like, she had to go to TCU.
Thank you for clarifying that. I got confused on LSU and TCU with the transfer. Thank you.
So I think you're thinking of Haley Van Lith.
Yeah, she was from Louisville to LSU.
To LSU and then to TCU.
Correct.
And so you think about that, like in Arkansas, they really are invested in baseball, and obviously they're not as much, like, they're in football.
But they're not on like the Texas level in football.
Yeah, but they're also don't have like, their big donors don't want like that. Now they're heavily invested in basketball because Cal is good friends with the guy who owns Tyson Foods. And
again, Arkansas in football, I think,
so
oddly enough, I think they kind of know their place in the sense that they're content to be like an 8-win team every year. They were disappointed in Sam Pittman because
they don't have the resources. It's that
resource allocation.
They have to budget their resources. Like
most schools that don't have like Cody Campbell at Texas Tech.
Which, like here, and a good, like, for example, like, I think if, like, why, like, Virginia Tech has all the reason in the world to, like, they could invest in Mike Young. Because, like, Mike Young has just as many conference championships as James Franklin. But they understand, like, football is our cash cow. In order for us to be able to fund a basketball team, we need to get our football team good. So they're going to put way more resources into football to get that back up. And they can trust Mike Young enough, which I think, considering, yes, they're quote unquote balling on a budget, but outside of this past season, Mike Young has a track record of taking like as little resources as possible and getting the most out of it.
Very true. He does. He's done that very well, and that conveniently leads us into our Fast 5 at 5.
Oh, wait, you forgot one thing. So you mentioned the oil things. I will also mention, and this is a shout out to you, if you somehow have this mysterious health system connected to your school, then you also have an unlimited amount of funds. I'm looking at the place, because
I'm throwing the U up.
Yeah, I would say, because they don't have the oil money, but notice how like suddenly after 2020, like Miami's NIL funds just got insanely massive.
So think of it this way.
Your boy, I forget that guy's name.
John Ruiz.
Yeah, he was like the face, but then like had to stop. Just notice like Miami Health. Just kind of.
Oh, no doubt. Like, here's my thing. Miami's a top 10 metropolitan area, and I don't know how a lot of them operate, but their healthcare system there seems to operate the same way it is here in Lynchburg, where one franchise has gobbled up a bunch of them. I would think the quality might be.
Highly don't recommend that.
As far as that franchise in the area?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not disputing it. Trying to get a hold of them is like trying to call the White House if you're talking for marketing and advertising.
I
love their
I wasn't even
strategy.
talking about that part. I'm talking about like the actual, like there's healthcare they give, but that's different.
But, there is one group that has a, by and large, they wouldn't like the term, but almost a monopoly on healthcare in Lynchburg. Now think of that same mindset, except in Miami, not Lynchburg. And you have all of it tied in.
And they're more willing to use those funds.
Not only are they more willing to use those funds, but think of all the people in the world that, I don't know, they want to get certain parts of their body enlarged, reshaped, readjusted, especially the female variety. Not hating if that's your thing, not really in our house, but hey, to each his or her own. A lot of people go to Miami for that. Every time it happens, that discretionary money might effectively be it might be paying for Darian Mensah to leave Duke and go to Miami, just on a hypothetical advantage. So to tie all that to balling on a budget, that's where we begin.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
When I'm looking for people that can be successful, particularly in coaching, I look for people that maximize their talent. And the same thing is honestly true if you played a sport and are in a management position. The Michael Jordans of the world kind of stink at coaching and roster building. I know, Trey. I just said it. Just gasp. Hold on to your seats for a second.
You're not wrong. I'm telling you. I think if I had to pick my GM between our GOATs debate, I'm still picking LeBron James because at least my team will get the playoffs. The team he likes to construct. Michael Jordan will have the worst record in the history of the National Basketball Association.
All right. After that potentially unnecessary detour, Trey,
which is a factual statement.
Not disputing that. Virginia Tech has announced that Hunter Couture will be an assistant coach to Mike Young. I love this move for Mike Young because we've talked about it already. The budget allocated for Virginia Tech men's basketball really did not go up this offseason when it did for almost everyone else that's a contender in the ACC. Do I expect the Hokies to be a winner in the ACC? Not really. Do I expect them to be on the Virginia? They play them twice. Duke, they don't play them at all level. Honestly, I don't. But do I think Virginia Tech should be in a spot where, like last year, they have a chance to make it into the expanded NCAA tournament? Sure. Do I think they should be in a spot where you can at least expect them to be more comfortably in? So you're not going, well, they just made it because it was a little bit larger field, which is not an incorrect statement if they would have made it this past year. They didn't make it on merit. They made it because it was a larger field. I think that's a reasonable expectation for Virginia Tech on its best level. I don't think there's a lot of talent. Look at the guys they added in the portal and other additions. But Hunter Couture knows how to get a lot out of players. If you're Tech, you're going to have to double down on culture, double down on winning ugly, double down on intangibles. And when I think of Hunter Couture, that's kind of the style of play that comes to mind for him. So I like it in that sense. Meanwhile,
number 4.
Justin Speros, Tony Elliott, announced yesterday, technically, that Justin Speros has been promoted to the football general manager, taking the place of Tyler Jones, who departed for Stanford. This is one of those moves where, oddly enough, I will trust the idea of keeping it in-house for Virginia. They've got 9 to 10 different people outside. People also forget, but Mike Tannenbaum's son, the former GM of the Jets, has been there. Scott Pioli from the Patriots. If you want a more winning organization in the AFC East, that's one that's an example. He has also been involved in Virginia's front office. So I look at that. I do wonder whether they're ties because of Cleveland, which is where Pioli was. Tannenbaum's got ties to that area as well. And oh, by the way, Justin Speros worked with the Browns and the Jaguars prior to his time in the college ranks. So there's an incestuous nature to football front offices. But by and large, I'll tip my cap and just give the benefit of the doubt to Virginia in regards to who they know and what they've been able to construct based upon that. Meanwhile, back to the other side of the Commonwealth at Virginia Tech.
Number 3.
Speaking of budget allocation and resources, Virginia Tech has received a $75 million commitment to their Invest to Win campaign, the largest in university history. Look, for Virginia Tech, they continue to get big transformative gifts. They've talked about getting $250 million over a 4 to 5 year period. I'm going to do a little quick math for you here. That's over 25% of that is in one fell swoop. If you're talking $300 million over a 5 year period, A quarter of that comes from this one donation, $75 million commitment. Now, commitment is different from donation. It may be spread out over a period of time, not to get too nerdy for a moment here, but there's also the present value of money diminishing over a period of time and costs continuing to rise. But for Virginia Tech, you got to have it, and you got to especially have it in football until we get some kind of stabilizing reality to college sports. And oh, by the way, watch, check here. We're in the summer of 2026. We've still got 3 to 4 more years before we've got more of an idea, which is why it's imperative to be financially prudent, which leads us back to the other side of the Commonwealth. In
number 2,
Virginia Athletics announced the establishment of the 1931 Club at Scott Stadium. It's another premium seating venture. This one's going to be on the 50-yard line on the west sideline over at Scott Stadium. It will, of the current space, will take place at the conclusion of the 2026 season and it's scheduled to be available starting at the beginning of 2027. The west side is the press box area. They're going to take that and remodel it. As somebody in the media, I'll be curious. I'd imagine they may rebuild that and move them higher up. That's generally the direction these things are going, as much as you may not want that. I do love the level and the open air nature of Virginia's press box, but I'd imagine you've got to get money while you can, and I'm curious to see what this means for that going forward. The reality is you're looking for ways to get additional resources and additional funds, and if you can sell premium seating, that's the way to go. Liberty, they have done a fantastic job of understanding that model before with Williams Stadium. The Cabanas, shout out to our friends of a Sea of Red in Cabana number 9, and others as well. That's where you get more bang for your buck than just selling tickets alone. They're going to be casual, normal people like Trey and me and our families where we're just looking for tickets. But then they're going to be the high rollers. And those are the people Virginia has a lot of. And the way to often win them over is to put them around other high rollers, make them pay a premium to get that experience, give them something they believe is valuable enough, and they continue to pay up, and that's how you generate the right money. Meanwhile, off of all this in
number 1,
Michael Luigiano of Liberty saw his impressive sophomore season come to an end this past Sunday. Finished 47th at the NCAA Men's Golf Championship. Really not too bad. You know, I think you have to take this into a grain of salt. The rounds got a little bit challenging for the back half, 72, 71, and 73, but you're kind of shooting right on par at a par 72 and finished at even par over those 3 rounds. When you consider the amount of wear and tear of an extended season on someone like Michael Luigiano, and yes, a lot of these golfers compete year-round, they're practicing year-round. This is not just a show-up-in-the-spring type of sport. But the pressure is a lot higher than it's been before. He's a sophomore at Liberty. This is a new mark for them, for their program. By and large, it's worth the hat tip for him and what he was able to accomplish for Liberty Golf, a team oh so close to getting through the regionals. And as a individual golfer, Michael Luigiano was able to do so as well at the Men's Golf Championship. Meanwhile, when we return to the fast lane, so eager to say the word championships, because regional championships have been crowned throughout the area. JF Baseball, EC Glass Lacrosse, and more. Bob Alvis of the Sports with Highcast will give us a rundown of all that next here in the Fast Lane.
When you walk into Haley's, you see the size and selection of a big box store. Over 19,000 square feet of appliances and mattresses.
Would you like to do me a favor?
Whirlpool, Maytag, Genair, Speedqueen, GE, and Monogram.
You.
And mattresses like Sealy,
Would you like
Serta,
to do me a
and
favor?
Tempur-Pedic. So what's the
Would you
difference?
like to do one for me or not?
Family, locally owned business.
Would
And a
you like
staff
to do it or
committed
not?
to servicing you over the entire life of the product.
I need you to see if
That
you can
means
find a card
before,
for me.
during, and well after your purchase. Visit Haley's today,
Well, you
just
have
off
to come
Woods
here.
Road
You
in
have to
Lynchburg.
stand up.
Haley's, quality that counts.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated
probably
with
is
slow
around
IT
the
support,
area of
high
my
costs, or paying for services you
computer and
just don't
everything,
use, it's time
the
for a
card on
change.
it will
Hi,
say,
I'm
remember
Colt with
when you
WeFix
used to
Stupid
get a birthday
Computers.
card?
We
That's
provide
$20.
reliable on-site and remote
Well,
support
it's not-
tailored for
something like
businesses
that.
just like yours.
It
And we
could
go
be in the
beyond
drawer,
just
too,
fixing
where I
problems.
keep my gift
We
cards, but
empower
I
your
don't think it
staff
is. I
with
think
real
I'm okay.
technology so they can work
if
smarter
you don't
every
find
day.
it, it's not
From
the end of the world.
repairs to training to
I
full
can't
IT
find it either.
support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call WeFix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
Tired of juggling 5 different numbers for your home's essential systems? Concord Mechanical is your true one-stop shop. From high-efficiency equipment sales and precision installation to proactive maintenance and emergency repairs, the Concord Mechanical will handle it all. Whether you're upgrading your HVAC, fixing a water heater, or seeking seasonal tuning, their expert technicians deliver seamless service under one roof. Save time, eliminate stress, and keep your home running perfectly year-round. Call today or visit theconcordmechanical.com to schedule your service.
Every Saturday night, after the Hill City Howlers play ball at City Stadium, the best fireworks in the region light up the Lynchburg sky. It's the perfect way to end a perfect night. baseball, family, and a show you won't forget. Get your tickets now at hchowlers.com. That's hchowlers.com. Howl out loud.
Spring means green lawns, open windows, and afternoons spent outdoors.
Did you find it yet?
At Brownstone Properties,
Did you find
you'll
it yet?
find homes with private
What about
yards,
now?
with locations near scenic walking trails or beautiful local parks, perfect for family picnics or peaceful strolls. This season, find your place to grow. Start today at brownstoneproperties.com or call 434-385-1025. Brownstone Properties, where home is at the heart of everything we do.
The clock is ticking. Time is running out for Virginia citizens to purchase modern sporting rifles and magazines from Big Boys Guns. Beat the July 1st deadline. Right now, the selection is robust at Big Boys Guns. ARs, AKs, and the most popular handguns will soon be banned from sale in the state of Virginia. Don't wait. Visit Big Boys Guns before the inventory is gone and not allowed to return. Shop 24/7 at bigboysguns.com and in store on Route 460 in Blue Ridge.
Starting a landscaping business? Growing your fleet? Miller Built Outdoor Equipment is focused on commercial turf professionals across Central Virginia. We help you choose the right Toro commercial mower, professional handheld equipment, and the right support plan.
Remote.
So your operation grows the right way.
Right behind you.
Commercial turf is your business. Supporting it is ours. Miller Built Outdoor Equipment on 12th Street in Lynchburg.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Regionals in the books. Teams that lost in the regional finals still get a chance to compete in state championship action in the state quarterfinals, but the road gets much harder with the long travel in many cases, as Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast, who joins us now in the Fast Lane, likes to refer to it a lot of time on the cheese wagon. Is that the biggest concern, Bob, for teams that lost their region championship?
It's my concern. I mean, right now it's also if you win, you go on. If you lose, pack them up. So right now it does get into elimination. You got to the regional final, which means a home game, closer home game versus the cheese wagon ride. So, I like that home game.
Bob, we will start with, there's certain names that it seems like they're becoming toxic in certain areas. And I know I might ruffle some feathers here in the Fast Lane today, but what else is new? Is the name, I know it's a school, not a person, but does the name John Hanley really get under the skin of EC Glass Hilltopper fans? Because they had a great boys basketball season going, and then Hanley upset Glass at EC Glass and boys basketball. And then the girls tennis team had an undefeated season going, and it's in the regional final as well. So they do get to move on to states, but now it's got to be on the road after John Hanley's girls team knocked off yet and again another undefeated EC Glass team.
The problem with the regional setup is you're going to see the same teams more often than not. So if you're going to have a mortal enemy, so to speak, that's why you're having the mortal enemy, because they're going to bounce around again and again. Normally, places I feel like have a good crop of athletes, and that crop extends normally in a lot of different sports. So I think that's why you have that. I know when I used to broadcast a lot for William Campbell and Alta Vista, you would see the same teams here on and here out. And I mean, you only have like 13 teams, 4 to 8 in regionals. So, you're going to see the same teams run into each other again and again. But I'm sure that John Hanley does not bring sugar plums to the heads of people when they go to sleep at night.
Oh, my goodness. Not at all. I mean, heck, we had to make the long drive up there, so we know what it's like. What they've done really has been pretty impressive going on the road to EC Glass. That's a long trip, and arguably it's even harder when it starts to get warmer and hotter outside, because a lot of those cheese wagons, Bob, they don't really have a lot of air conditioning, so you're kind of clutching your pearls getting down there, hoping you stay properly hydrated.
Well, and I think depending, sometimes, some boost organizations or, some organization, state or whatever, you might get a charter for the long trips. But at this point, too, you're just excited to be playing.
Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast, stopping by with us once again here in the Fast Lane. Bob, great to be speaking with you as we always do. We flip it over to a couple of other sides, area schools that have managed to get victories when it comes to regional playoff action. We will stick with EC Glass. Their lacrosse team, it wasn't pretty, but they went on the road to Salem and got the victory. How much of this is the fact that, if there's one thing about this team, they're not afraid to play physical. They've got the pedigree of having been there before. And, Eddie Renuska, if nothing else, has gotten them to buy into an identity. And they may not win stylistically pretty, but, I mean, if you're a Hilltopper fan, I don't think you really care about that. You're physically manhandling your way to get into the state championship or the state quarterfinals in a home game.
And it's been some road wins. I mean, it's been a road win at Jefferson Forest in the regionals. It's been a road win at Salem in the regionals. So they have definitely been road warriors without a doubt. And I think you hit the nail on the head. These guys may not have all been there before, but even if you have one or two that have been there before, then I think we get into another topic, which I almost hate to bring up because you'll put this into your memory bank and we'll talk about it down the road. What is a winner? And, in high school, it's a little bit different. But I think if you're used to winning, no matter if it's you won, all the way to the state title, or if you just, remember the routine of winning, what it took to win, I think being a winner is a big deal. And EC Glass has got that pedigree of winning, because if you're a road team going into the playoffs, it means you weren't one of the best teams, because if you were one of the best teams, they'd be at home. So, being a road warrior, I think, is even more impressive.
It is. I'll also throw this out there. They're one of those programs, lacrosse, there's only so many programs in this area, and therefore you often have to travel. What value does that provide a team? EC Glass lacrosse may be in a unique spot. What value does it provide them where they're often having to make longer bus rides and trips, especially in the early going of the season before they get into conference and even in their regional play? So it's not as intimidating for them as it is to other teams where their district in their backyard is primarily where they play most of their games.
Lacrosse is a weird sport because you don't have the district play like you have in baseball, in softball, in tennis, in volleyball and football, whatever, because out of the Seminole district, I want to say that Jefferson Forest and EC Glass are your lacrosse teams. Then you look at, a VES locally has lacrosse. But after that, I mean, you get into New Covenant, and then after that, you're really getting into, we're going to have to look at going to Roanoke. We're going to have to look at going to Rockbridge. And some of the times, if you want to play, a really good team, maybe you're going to Richmond. So it really differs. And if you play a really good team, scheduling is not as easy as people think. You just don't snap your fingers and get a game sometimes. So I think scheduling is hard. But yeah, lacrosse is, you're not always going to find the home and homes. You're not always going to find the two games. But people that are having problems to find lacrosse games, well, I've got good news for you. Other people are finding problems too. So then that can mean you can, mesh with them.
Bob Alvis with us here in the Fast Lane, spewing words of wisdom that no doubt we will hear at Seminole District Football Media Days, because there are a lot of schools in football that have scheduling challenges. That's been a theme in prior years. I'm sure it'll be one when we get there. We are a couple months off, Bob. We don't want to get accelerated too far in that particular direction. Pivoting off of EC Glass in particular to Jefferson Forest. First of all, you were at their game on Wednesday in the regionals. As this team, how much has this team progressed over the course of the season?
I think the big thing for them is they pitch and play defense. And I think in baseball, pitching and playing defense is going to take you a long ways, because I'll be honest with you, and I've talked with a lot of people about this, the Seminole District baseball is not what it was 6 to 7 years ago, to where you have, maybe 2 or 3 hitters back to back that you're concerned about leaving the park. Not saying they don't have potential to leave the park, but you don't have, the 2 or 3 power hitters that, well, I got to pitch carefully to 3, because if I don't, 4 is going to take me on the ride out of the yard. I don't know that you really have that right now. So I think with that being said, hitting is going to come and go. Pitching and defense, if you can teach that from day one, that's always going to be there. And I think when you have pitching and defense, pitching doesn't mean you have 21 strikeouts. It means you're not afraid to put the ball into play. Just don't put it into play over the fence so much, and the defense is going to pick you up.
Bob Alvis with us here in the Fast Lane. He hosts the Sports Buffet podcast. They do a lot of coverage of local sports, especially their story time with Bob Alvis. I don't know, is that the name I came up with the last time? My memory's so bad I can't remember.
I think I've called it going back, but
whatever.
I like story time too.
I'll have to go back and listen to remember what it is. My memory is so feeble, Bob. But it's not feeble enough to not remember the fact that you've got softball with, once again, Appomattox and Rustburg in regional final action. I'm going to take the easiest question here. does the advantage, if you're asking which one has a better chance of winning a regional, go to Appomattox? Because for them, it's at home, whereas Rustburg, they travel to Broadway.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be alive after this game no matter what, because two teams in the regionals, they both go to state. I mean, I'm always going to favor the 1As and the 2As just because the competition I think they see around here makes it, I don't want to say easier the rest of the way, but in a way, I think the Lynchburg area, top to bottom, does have very good athletic teams in every sport. And I think once you play them during your regular season, I think it does make the playoffs a little bit easier. But everybody has that mentality of where, hey, win or go home. And I think Rustburg and Appomattox both carry that into regional championships to where it's not win or go home, but nobody wants to lose and go on the road. I mean, I don't even think people care about the road. Nobody wants to lose. So I have trust in Rustburg and Appomattox that, from the top to the bottom, they're going to be motivated enough to get through regional games. And then, like I said, it's a single elimination from that point on.
Do you believe that's what we're seeing now with Alta Vista boys soccer? They knocked off Luray 4-1 on Tuesday. They've got the regional final today. And then William Campbell softball as well is kind of a tight 2-1 victory against Riverheads. Are we seeing that with both of those programs where they're playing their best right now, in part because of the difficult opponents they had to face throughout the regular season?
Yeah, I saw William Campbell softball early in the year, and Chris Smith's squad, I knew they'd be okay in 1A because, again, 1A, the 1A schools around here normally, William Campbell, Alta Vista, Nelson County, I might be missing somebody. But once they get into playoffs, they are, I don't want to say tested, but they're pretty tested. And I think that they provide headaches for other teams no matter where they're seated. You just don't want to see a Dogwood team in there, because I've seen a region game between like a 1 and an 8 before, and the talent disparity from a 1 to an 8 in 1A is so much different than a 3A or 4A, because, I mean, 8, you almost wonder how people tied their shoes. They got them tied, obviously, and got out there, but 1A is so top-heavy. When you see the 1 and the 2, they're really, really good. Not only really good athletically, but really well coached as well.
Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast stopping by with us today in the Fast Lane. Bob, we really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for making some for us today in the Fast Lane, and we look forward to chatting in another week. We'll see who's still left standing. It's Elton John.
Absolutely. I love to look forward to it.
It is always a pleasure of ours. Bob Alvis of the Sports Buffet podcast here in the Fast Lane. When we return, Danny Peters. I got to come up with a good nickname for him because he's the British sensation. Oh no, that's not the one I like. He doesn't have enough alliteration for it. Maybe I'll have a better one. We'll find out when we return. He'll talk some NASCAR from frontstretch.com next here in the Fast Lane.
Celebrate 250 years of America with massive savings during the Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. Right now, get an additional $250 fuel savings discount on all new and used vehicles. An additional $250 in fuel savings. Shop over 2,000 new and used vehicles in one location, including more than 1,000 quality pre-owned vehicles with most makes and models at the Used Car Superstore. Plus 12 new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Kia, Toyota, Subaru, Chevrolet, Buick, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Used cars starting at just $59.95. $59.95. And your trade is worth more. Shop local and save with straightforward pricing, exceptional service and selection, certified friendly staff, no games, no gimmicks, and more inventory arriving daily, plus flexible financing options for every budget. We've got the credit. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. The Liberty 250 savings event on the Sheeler Motor Mile. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Example 2009 Chevrolet Impala stock number KA260134B plus tax tag title and $697 processing fee.
Guests are great, except unwanted guests. At Specialty Exterminating, we know the difference. Hi, I'm Sabrina Kennan with Specialty Exterminating. We help you keep unwanted pests out of your home. Now we can keep those reptiles away. Our new reptile repellent is the perfect add-on for your pest prevention service. It's pet and people safe, so it's perfect for any homeowner, especially pool owners and homes in wooded and rural areas. Call us so we can repel the reptiles. Specialty Exterminating, your pest prevention partner since 1979.
Big news, everyone. Earthright Roofing is giving away a free roof. Go to our website to read the terms and conditions and see if you qualify for up to a $10,000 asphalt shingle roof at no charge. Must be 15 years or older roof to qualify. Come to our showroom for a double entry into the contest or go online for an entry. Enjoy, and we look forward to meeting you soon. Thank you. Visit earthrightroofing.com or call our office at 434-248-3697 for more information about the contest. We look forward to hearing from you.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, a healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot. Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Macadoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
Time to share it and fun. Just to be there, the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Summer is a time for sunshine and growth, but even in life's brighter moments, things can still feel overwhelming. At Central Virginia Counseling, we provide professional support when you need it most. This summer, prioritize your well-being. Our experienced counselors are here to help you build resilience and move forward with confidence. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com to get started. Central Virginia Counseling, where courage meets compassion.
Hi, I'm Al Billingsley, a board member with CASA of Central Virginia. Children who have experienced abuse or neglect often enter foster care feeling scared, confused, and alone. That's where CASA volunteers step in. We stand behind these children to make sure that their voices are heard in court. CASA is looking for caring adults from our community to serve as volunteer advocates. And as a man, I can tell you we're especially in need more men to step up for these kids. If you're ready to make a difference, learn more at cvcasa.org.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
He is a man who has such intimate knowledge of my Ty Gibbs fandom that he is generous enough to try to ask questions of Ty Gibbs at every single press conference he attends for frontstretch.com. And he actually does really good work outside of trying to be my liaison to the great Ty Gibbs, who has one win, but maybe two if things go well at Michigan this coming weekend. Danny Peters, frontstretch.com, with us here in the Fast Lane. Danny, first of all, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. We are glad to see you. Thank you for joining us today in the Fast Lane. If it was for Ty Gibbs, the Joe Gibbs Racing might have had everybody in the top 5 this past weekend at Nashville in front of you. Instead, Ty was the deadweight on what was an otherwise really strong weekend for that particular brigade of Toyotas.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Ed. And anytime I'm at the track, I'm happy to ask you a fanboy question of Ty Gibbs, you know. I feel like I a little bit failed you. I didn't quite ask the right question that you wanted this time, but I did ask him a question. So there we go. But yeah, I mean, a thrilling weekend, I thought, at Nashville. All 3 races had great finishes, you know, Lane Riggs and Raja Karuth in the trucks, the veteran Allgaier versus the youngster Cruz in the O'Reilly Auto Parts race. And then, of course, the Joe Gibbs trio battling down to the very end in the Cup race on Sunday.
Is it Joe Gibbs Racing versus everyone else right now in NASCAR, now that it looks like things have cooled off for 23XI Racing, particularly Bubba Wallace, but even to a lesser extent Tyler Reddick?
Yeah, I mean, I think Reddick still has a worse finisher, like 15th on the season. So, I mean, I think he's still getting the results week in, week out, if not winning every week. But yeah, right now it does seem that Joe Gibbs Racing has the advantage. But you know as well as I do, Ed, NASCAR is cyclical, and right now the Toyotas have the advantage, but it's not going to be the way through the whole season. And certainly as we head into the playoffs, I'm sure we'll see the other 2 manufacturers coming a little stronger. But yeah, certainly it's Toyota's world right now, and I would expect it to be at Michigan this weekend. But really, I mean, just that finish. I mean, I was standing watching from opposite the start-finish line, and I didn't have a screen near me, so I was kind of watching that restart, you know, as they come around past the start-finish line, sort of coming off turn 4, headed into turn 1, and you know, I turned around and I said to Trenton, who I was there with, I was like, Denny's going to win this race. You just had that feeling that he was going to find a way to get it done, and he did. You know, I felt really bad for both Briscoe and Bell, because you know, whoever loses a finish like that, it's always super hard. And Bell in particular was very hard on himself. I mean, I spoke to him and his crew chief Adam Stevens after the race. Stevens said It's another one that slipped away from us. It's kind of been the story of the year. Last week, he's referring to Charlotte, we had one slip away, and we did tonight too. We were in position and hard racing there, and I think we slipped a bit, just trying to push to stay out front. And then Bell said to me Bell said to Front Stretch, I didn't need anything. My car was amazing. We had the right strategy, the right everything, and I did not win the race. I didn't do a good job of driving. I've got no one to blame but myself. There's nobody to blame, no circumstances. It was all completely in my hands, and I dropped the ball. So there's literally nobody that had anything to do with losing the race except me, and it sucks. And, first of all, I think that was a really honest answer from Bell. It's in the heat of the moment, like right after the race, but he could have gone another way, and he didn't. He just came out and he took it on the chin. But certainly you sense sort of frustration in that 20 team that they haven't got the win yet. That perhaps their running form and their general position on track suggests that they might have done this year.
Danny Peters of FrontStretch.com. He has the easiest Twitter account to remember. It's just at Danny Peters. I'm amazed every time we at you there, because everybody else has to have some fancy acronym because Ed Lane or Trey Lyle or whatever has been taken, and yet you got Danny Peters. I mean, first of all, hat tip to you for pulling that one off. That's more impressive than the Ty Gibbs questions that you lobby at NASCAR tracks on my behalf. Speaking of, by the way, that organization, out of that grouping of drivers, are we at the point now where you're breaking it down between Joe Gibbs and even 2311 and saying, heading into Michigan this weekend, you give the entire Joe Gibbs fleet a nod over 2311, or do you still break it down to tiers amongst those organizations of liking some drivers out of the group more than the others?
It does seem to be Joe Gibbs Racing and 2311 right now. And I would say with Bubba, I think he's had a really unfortunate May. He's got into incidents that weren't of his own making, and he's really started to slip down the standings. But so I do think the speed is there for Bubba. I just think the results haven't come for, a lot of times for reasons that weren't of his own making, but you do get the feeling that Denny Hamlin, this is the most laps he's led after 14 races in his entire, very storied career. You do get the feeling that Hamlin is dialed in right now. But, worth noting too, we've got a couple of road courses coming up, and, Hamlin's weak point is definitely the road courses, and, a couple of bad finishes at Sonoma and on the new racetrack at San Diego, and it could look different. But yeah, it feels to me like you go into this weekend, and if you're a betting man, you put money on Hamlin, Bell, Briscoe, Gibbs, Reddick, or Bubba Wallace, and you probably come out on top.
So you mentioned that. I mean, bet the Toyota to win might be the best bet, according to Danny Peters of FrontStretch.com, when looking ahead to this weekend's race up at Michigan. Danny, out of that grouping, which one, if you were to say in a couple of weeks, he's cooled off unexpectedly? Is there a driver or two that you're eyeing that either a downward trend might continue, or he might cool off and all of that momentum might start to slip away?
I mean, I think the obvious one to say would be, Tyler Reddick, because he had such a hot start to the year. Can he sustain that over the next few weeks? And, you've got some wild card tracks coming up. You've got Pocono, which can be a wild card track. You've got the road courses of San Diego and Sonoma. You've got the super speedway of Atlanta. So, you might lean towards Reddick, but as I said, he just keeps, even on the days that he doesn't win, he keeps having good finishes. So, I guess the one that I would worry most for is Bubba. He's obviously on a bit of a slump right now, and he needs to turn that round. I think on the Joe Gibbs side, Ty's having a great season, fifth in the points. Briscoe, after a really tough start, is starting to put together some runs. And Bell, while he might not have picked up the checkered flags that he wanted, is still running really well and is still in with a shot to win, kind of week in, week out. So perhaps of that group, the one I would worry about most is Bubba. But that being said, with those two road courses coming up, maybe it'll be Denny. You'd expect Denny to be good at Michigan, expect Denny where he won last year. You'd expect Denny to be good at Pocono, where he has 7 wins, the most equal of all time. So maybe the one that I would worry about would be Bubba. But, I also feel like Bubba's due a little bit of luck, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit if in Victory Lane on Sunday we're talking about a great win for Bubba Wallace and his first win since the Brickyard last year.
Boy, you get a lot of people fired up in one direction or the other. I'd love to see it in a positive. Other people might go, I'm not so sure about that. The flip side to this have been the Fords and the Chevys. Let's start with Chevrolet right now. How sustainable is what Shane Van Gisbergen is doing? And we're going to take out the street and road races that are coming up at San Diego and Sonoma, the rest of the summer schedule. Do you expect SVG to be contending for top 10s at all the non-road venues?
Well, I mean, I think at Trackhouse, SVG is the driver that's sort of run the best really across that team. Obviously, Connor Zilic with another brake failure. He's having a tough year. I mean, you feel for the rookie. He's really, everything that can and could have gone wrong for him seems to have gone wrong. But, I would hope that he would right the ship coming into the road courses. But, I think what we're seeing from SVG is improvement. I mean, he's had some good qualifying starts the last couple of weeks at Charlotte and Nashville, starting third at Charlotte and 10th at Nashville, thanks to the rainouts. And that's enabled him to run up front. And when he's able to run up front, he's able to kind of stay up front. And, he mentioned that post-race to Trenton on pit road, sort of talking about how, when he's able to run up front in clean air, it's great. And when he's not able to run up front in clean air, and he used a word that's not probably appropriate for the radio station, about what his cars were like. So I think what we're seeing from Shane is just a maturation, as he's spending more time in the series and having more experiences on ovals, and he's starting to find a way. He's so this weekend will be his 65th race in Cup, and 7 wins in that time is, even albeit on the road courses, is still a remarkable statistic. But he does seem to be finding a way, and I think if he can qualify towards the front of the field, and qualifying's probably been in general a little bit of an issue for Trackhouse this year. If he can qualify up front, what we're seeing is that he can run up front, and he's a smart guy. He's a great driver and a smart guy, and you'd expect as he logs these laps on the ovals, he would continue to improve. And so yeah, I think SVG continues to improve on the ovals and continues to run up front, with that one note being that he needs that good qualifying position to on the day to have a good run.
Most people would presume that at some point Chevrolet will get it together as an entire manufacturer, and that Hendrick will lead the charge in that. Who out of that bunch are you sitting there going, all right, the Chevys may be slow right now, but by the end of the summer, we're going to be rolling our eyes and going, we should have known this driver and or this team finally put it together?
Well, I mean, I agreed with the general point you're making about Chevy, but they still have the 2 wins for Chase Elliott, of course, on the season, and they have the win for Carson Hocevar. So they do have 3 wins, if I'm remembering that rightly off the top of my head, on the season. I think there's 2 drivers that I would look at in the Chevrolet camp, and that would be William Byron and Kyle Larson. It's been a while since Kyle Larson has had a win, but even so, he's still 6th in points. He's comfortably 6th in points, and but I would expect that win to come for him, because Larson just knows how to get it done. Larson's arguably the most complete driver on the circuit, given all the other things that he runs as well. So he's one I would look at, and then the other one I would say, William Byron's had a difficult first 14 races, just 2 top 5s, 7 top 10s, just 34 laps led. He's someone who, coming into the season, you'd be saying, well, who's the regular season champion? A lot of people would have put their money on William Byron. So those are 2 I think that I'm watching and expecting, more from as we kind of head into the playoffs in a few months' time.
Meanwhile, for Ford, are they so far out of it that you're not optimistic they'll be able to get it together by the time we reach the end of the regular season?
Well, I mean, I think if we're talking about Ford, you look at Joey Logano, and he's mired in 18th place, and he's a little bit back from the playoffs, and clearly Joey is having a tough year. Average finish of 20.8. That's really not much to write home about for the 3-time champion. But despite their struggles, you've still got a bunch of Fords, that are up there. You've got Blaney, who's pretty solidly in third place. He's had one win. He's had, 3 top fives, 9 top tens, led nearly 300 laps. Blaney has run well despite perhaps, struggles for the manufacturer. And then you got Buescher in 8th. You've got Brad Keselowski in 13th. Both of those two drivers have had, pretty solid seasons. So, obviously, I think they'd be hoping for more at this stage of the season. But like I said to you, a little bit ago, the Cup Series is cyclical. You see one manufacturer is on top, another manufacturer comes back, another manufacturer drops down. So I would expect the Fords to be strong, and I would certainly expect the Fords to be strong in the playoffs. And if you're looking at who have been the best 4 or 5 drivers on the year right now, and Reddick obviously leads the field, Denny in second, but you got Toyota, Blaney's Ford, Elliott's Chevy, and your boy Ty Gibbs is Toyota. But you've got Blaney's right up there, and he's run well this season. So I would expect more from them. I'm sure they would expect more from themselves, but for all the perhaps the concerns, they've still shown in Blaney that they've got a guy who can be right up the front of the pack and be on top of the standings, or near to the top of the standings.
There's a path forward, and Danny Peters charted it for us today here in the Fast Lane. Danny, great to speak. We really appreciate your time. It really is always a highlight when we can catch up, and look forward to speaking again soon.
One more thing before you let me go. I do want to just give a shout out to an amazing crowd at Nashville on all 3 nights, a sellout on the Sunday. The fans stayed through various rain delays, but that's a great crowd, fans who love the sport, and that was really good to see. And then another quick shout out to the Media Center for providing some of the best food that you get anywhere on the circuit. Cracker Barrel, Chick-fil-A, you name it, you got it in that Media Center. Dipping Dots, it was a good time, my friend. It was a good time.
Boy, you rattled off those sponsors like Jeff Gordon used to do back in the day. You're a pro.
I've won a few less cup races and championships than Jeff Gordon, but he might have taught me a thing or two along the way.
Minor details from Danny Peters to wrap up the Fast Lane today. Danny, great to speak. We are grateful for your time and look forward to speaking soon.
Thank you, Ed. Great to speak to you. Send me questions for Sonoma.
Of course, I'll mark it on my calendar. Danny Peters with us here in the Fast Lane to wrap it up. W227 BG Timberlake, WVGA Manchester, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside, now on to Freddie and Harry in progress before at 7:30 tonight, 7:45 tonight. Softball Game 2. Can Texas Tech force a Game 3 tomorrow on the VTRN Sports app? Or will Texas be crowned champions and lead into our Game 2 coverage of Vegas at Carolina in the NHL playoffs? Find out right now.
This game and this series is going to go. I think we certainly got a taste of that now.